ริญพรทุกคนนะ
Hello, everyone.
ก่อนอื่นขออนุโมทนาอุตส่าห์เดินทาง
Anumotana
มา
for
เรียน
all
ธร
of
รมะ
you to have traveled so far to study Dhamma.
ที่จริงธรรมะเป็นสัจธรรม
Dhamma
เป็นของประจำ
is,
โลก
in fact, it's a truth
มีอยู่ใน
that
ที่ทุก
already
คนทุกแห่ง
stays in this world. It's everywhere.
แค่ใบไม้นะในใบไม้ใบเดียว
Even within
ก็
a
มีธรรมะแส
single
ดงอยู่
leaf, there is Dhamma displaying
ใบ
there.
ออกมาใหม่
If it's a
ใบ
new
เล็ก
leaf
ๆใบอ่อ
just
น
budding
ก็
out,
โตขึ้นมา
it's small
สุด
and
ท้าย
it starts to
แก่
grow
ร่วงไป
and it gets bigger
แค่
and
ใน
it
ใบไม้ใบ
becomes
เดียว
old and it falls
ก็
away.
สอนธรรมะเราละ
Even
อยู่
within
ที่
a
เราเห็
single
นหรือไม่
leaf,
เห็น
it can teach you Dhamma. Whether your mind can
แต่
see
จ
it,
ริงๆแล้วธรร
that's
มะ
another matter. In fact,
มีอยู่ทุกคนทุกแห่ง
Dhamma
ไม่
is
ใช่ว่ามีอยู่
everywhere.
ที่เมืองไทย
It's not in Thailand.
ไม่ได้อยู่ที่หลวงพ่อ
It's not with me.
ถ้าเราเข้าใจ
If you understand
แก่นคำสอน
the
ของศาสนาพุทธ
gist
ที่
and
เรา
principle
พัฒนา
of the teaching
ไป
of
ได้
Dhamma, you can
ถ้าเรา
develop.
ไม่เข้าใจ
But if
แก่น
you don't
คำสอน
understand the
เรา
gist
ก็
of
ลองผิด
the
ลองถูกไปเรื่อย
teachings of Dhamma, you
ๆ ที่เมือง
can
เนี้ย
have a lot of
ปฏิบัติ
trials and
ตาม
errors.
เป็นชาวพุทธ
You may interpret that this is the way Buddhists should practice,
หัวใจ
or that
สำคัญ
is the way to practice.
ในทาง
But you're
พุทธศา
missing
สนา
the
ที่
core
มี
of the teachings
คนถามพระพุทธเจ้า
of Dhamma principles.
ว่าถ้าจะ
Someone
สรุป
used to ask
คำสอ
Lord
นทั้งหม
Buddha
ดใน
if
ศาสนาพุทธ
you want
ใน
to
ประโยคเดียวจะทำได้ไหม
distill all the teachings into
แต่
one
ก็
sentence.
เอา
Can
ทั้
we
งหม
do
ด
that?
สรุปลงในประโยคเดียว
So I said that
ก็ทำ
the
ได้
Buddha said that there could
เพราะ
be
ว่า สิ่งทั้งหลาย
concluded
ทั้ง
into
ปว
one
งไม่
sentence
ควรยึดมั่น
that
ถือมั่น
everything, anything in this world
ถ้า
should
เรา
not be cling to.
ไปยึดไปถือสิ่งใด
As soon as you
ยึด
cling
ถือแล้ว
to,
ก็จะเกิดความทุกข์
attach
ขึ้น
to
มา
anything, sufferings will arise.
อย่างเรามีครอบครัว
So if you have a
เรา
family,
ทั้งรักทั้งห่วง
you will
ทั้
feel
งห่วง
love and worry towards them.
เวลาอย่างเวลาเรามีลูกเนี่ย
So when you have a
ลูก
child,
เราหายไปไม่
when
ได้
a
กลับ
child
บ้าน
disappears, they
ใจเรามี
don't
ความ
return
ทุกข์
home, you suffer.
แต่ถ้ามันเป็นเด็กอื่นนะ
But
ใจ
if
เราก็
it's
เฉย
another
ๆ
child,
เราไม่รู้
your
จัก
mind doesn't know them,
เวลา ค
so your mind
น
doesn't
ที่เรา
suffer.
รัก
So when
ไป
someone you
เรา
love
เดือดร้อนกลุ้ม
passes,
ใจเสีย
you
ใจ
suffer, you hurt, you feel
ค
the
นอื่น
sorrows.
เราอย่างเราอ่าน
If it's
ข่าว
someone
ดู
else you read in the news, if it's someone else passing,
มีใช่ไหมมีโทรทัศน์ไหม
if you have a
เดี๋ยวนี้ไม่
TV,
ดูกันแล้ว
nowadays do people still watch TV?
มีข่าวคนนั้นตาย
So when you read the news about other people's passing, other people were at war, other countries are at war, 10, 20 people.
เราได้ข่าวอันนี้
You
เรา
heard
เฉ
these
ยๆ
news,
เราไม่รู้จัก
you don't feel anything
ใจเรา
because you
ไม่ได้
don't
รั
know
กไม่
them,
ผูกพัน
because you don't feel
ใจ
attached
เราก็ไม่มีความทุ
to
กข์
them. You don't have the
เหมือน
suffering
บ้า
in the
น
mind. When you
เรา
have
รั
a
กบ้าน
house,
เรา
you love
แฟน
your
เรา
own house,
นี่บ้านของเรา
you feel that the house
บ้าน
belongs
เรา
to you.
เก่าบ้านเราชำรุด
As
ทรุด
the
โทรมบ้าน
house
เรา
gets
ภูมิใจ
older, you
เรา
feel
ยึดว่าเป็นบ้านของเรา
worried because you
อย่าง
cling
เรามา
that
อยู่โรง
this
แรม
house belongs to you. But if you
ห้อง
stay
แอร์
at a hotel,
น้ำไม่ไหลอะไรอย่างเงี้ย
this room,
เรา
the
ก็
water
ไม่
isn't
ไม่
running.
เดือ
You
ดร้อน
just
เท่า
move
ไหร่
to another room. You don't really suffer much
แล้
from
วสิ่ง
this.
ใดที่เรายึดถือนะ
So
เรา
anything
ยึด
that
อะ
you
ไร
start to
เรา
attach
จะทุ
to,
กข์เพราะ
hold
สิ่ง
on
นั้น
to, you will suffer from that thing.
ศาสนาพุทธเนี่ยสอนให้ไป
Buddhism
ที่ความพ้
has
นทุกข์
taught
ความดับสนิทแห่ง
with
ทุ
a
กข์
focus to be
มีส
liberated
องอัน
from the
นะอันหนึ่งพ้น
sufferings.
ทุกข์อันหนึ่ง
First
ความ
is
ดั
to
บ
be
สนิทแห่ง
liberated
ทุก
from
ข์
sufferings, and the second purpose is for the full
จะดับทุกข์ได้
extinguishing
นะจะ
of
พ้น
the
ทุกข์
suffering.
ได้นะ
In
เรา
order
ต้อง
to
พ้น
be
ความยึดถือ
liberated
ในสิ่งทั้ง
and
หลาย
to
ทั้งปวง
extinguish the suffering,
ท่านถึงสอนว่า
you
สิ่ง
will
ทั้งห
not,
ลายทั้งปวงสภาวะทั้งหลา
you
ย
will
ทั้ง
have
ปว
to
ง
not be attached to
ไม่ควรยึด
anything.
มั่นถือมั่น
So anything in
เพ
this
ราะยึดที
world,
ไรก็ทุ
Lord
กข์
Buddha said you should not be clinging to
นี่
anything
การ
because
ปฏิ
every
บัติเนี่ย
time you
ในศา
cling
สนา
to
พุ
it,
ทธนะ
you
ไม่
will
ใช่เพื่อ
suffer.
สิ่งอื่น
So the
แต่
purpose
เพื่อ
of
สิ่ง
Buddhism
สำคัญเลยครับ
is, for
การ
the
เป็น
most
ไป
important
เรา
thing,
จะไม่
is
ทุกข์
how to be
สิ่งสำคัญ
free
อยู่ตรงนี้
from suffering. So that's the
นี่
gist
เรารู้
of
แล้วว่า
Buddhism.
เราทุกข์เพราะเรา
So now
ไป
you
ยึด
know
ถือ
that
มั่น
because you suffer because you cling
จะไม่
to
ทุกข์ได้ก็
something.
ต้องไม่
in order to be free, you have to not have any clinging. It's easy to say not to cling to anything, but you cannot actually do it. You can say it. You can say you're not attached to even yourself. You can, anyone can say bad things to you, can scold you, can compliment you, but then when you actually not having the mindfulness, when you ask someone asks you something, you said your mind is free from it, but then suddenly your mind can get angry. A while ago in Bangkok, there was one master, เจ้าคุณอุบาลีคุณอุบาจารย์ He was a master following Luangpu Man. He was at Temple Paromniwat in Bangkok. And there is one lady, a noble lady, a high-class lady. She said she doesn't have any anger. She doesn't cling to anything anymore. So when you say this, it's either you are a non-returner, or you are an arahant. She said that she doesn't have any anger. So he said, "You liar." So she scolded her, liar. So the non-clinging, the non-angry person gets so angry and started to scream and shouted back at the monk, said, "What a monk! How could you say this to me?" And she walked out. And then after a few days, she realized she had to come back and apologize to the monk. So the words are easily said, but really difficult to be done. In order to be not clinging, not holding on to anything, you can only do it when you truly see that these attachments, these clinging, bring sufferings to you. So when you see that the house is a burden, when you rent a house, when the house is destroyed, you go rent another house. But if it's your own house, if it's flooded, if it's on fire, you cannot run away because it belongs to you. So when you have that wisdom that grows stronger, you see that having a house, it's a suffering. You have a car, you suffer from it. Some people can see that as the parents get older, you never even help bathe your parents, never did it. But when you buy a car, you keep washing it, rinsing it because you're afraid of the dust speck would be falling on your car. See, having a car becomes a burden. Having a child is a burden. Isn't it true? If you have a child, can you be equanimous, be indifferent about their well-being, their livelihood? See, it's all a burden. So if you see the sufferings, whatever that is there, if you see that these things, anything in this world, they are impermanent, they're always under oppression to change, and it's not under your control. Until you truly see this, you'll be free from it. That means you see the sufferings, you see the nonsensical in everything in this world. That's when you will be truly liberated. You can always say this, but it's actually only, you can only talk the talk, but you cannot walk the walk. So in your mind, you actually have a misconception. You don't see the truth that anything in this world should not be clinged to, should not be attached to. Why? Because the moment you start to cling, that's the moment you start to suffer. So try to notice when you have a new piece of clothing, you have a new one tailored made for you. You walk down the road and someone walked close to you. You were afraid of someone causing the clothes to get dirty or to get torn. See, Even a piece of cloth could make you suffer, but if you can see that one day it will get torn, it will get old, if you can see this, when the clothes, the beautiful clothes that you have, as it gets old, it start to look bad, you feel all right, that it's normal. You understand Dhamma. Dhamma means natural, normal. So when you fully understand it, you'll be no longer clinging to anything. In order to understand Dhamma, you have to see that everything is impermanent, it's suffering, and it's non-self. How do you how do you see this? How to practice in order to see this, that everything in this universe are subject to these three marks? So Lord Buddha had taught us that the principles for to teach us all of this, the practice in order to see all these three marks, in order for us not to be attached to them. So once you practice and you see the truth about all this, that you should not attach to anything, you will not have to try not to be attached to it. The mind itself will not cling to it because it's so wise. The mind will get so wise because none of these things should be attached to, because you cannot attach yourself to it. It will always be impermanent. It will be there temporarily. It comes and it will always go. So, Lord Buddha taught us the program in order to be free from sufferings. So, this is the foundations of mindfulness. Foundations is the main road, is the only road for purification, for liberation. So, what we need to understand is to understand the four foundations of mindfulness. So, the foundations of mindfulness is Dhamma that is not talked about. Most people would talk about other things. Most people neglect this most important thing that will be allowing you to be free from sufferings. So the first step in order to study, first you need the mind that being inspired to fight this journey, to go through this journey. As long as you have the defilements, you will not stop practicing. As long as the wholesomeness, the morality, samadhi, and the wisdom are not complete, are not full, we will not abandon the practice. It's the diligence, it's the perseverance. This diligence, it doesn't mean being dutiful at the practice. The root of the words is vira. Vira means brave. It's like the brave people who are warriors. The brave warriors means those are brave. So the first one is to build your aspiration, to be brave, to be determined, to be resolute, to fight the defilements. You have to be strong to develop the wholesomeness, to make it complete, to make it full. So most people, they love themselves. They are scared. They are cowards. They go to do the sitting meditation, to do the walking meditation. They're afraid of the hardship. That's because the mind is weak. They are not diligent. They're not resolute. They're always feeling discouraged. How do you build this resolution? It takes some faith. It starts with the faith and the diligence and the mindfulness and then the wisdom. This is the full circle. In order to make it, the faith has to arise. So the lay person, this faith could still be flaky. It could be good one day and bad another day. So you have to keep training over time to have the confidence in the three gems, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. How to build this confidence, this faith or confidence? You study about all the venerables, all these people who have became the purified person. They all had fought. They had to go through and fight their defilements, but they trained themselves relentlessly, giving it all, never afraid of the hardship. So they developed themselves. to the point where they liberated from defilements. They're full of wholesome, with the morality, samadhi, and the wisdom. It's complete, it's full. You read about them, you see how they actually won these wars. You contemplate about these masters. Every masters in the past, they had their own defilements. How did they do it? If they could do it, we could do it. We are humans too. You have one head, two hands, 2 feet, just like them. If they could do it, you have to be able to do it. So, try to encourage yourself to fight with this laziness, to discouragements, to the weakness in you. So now, so you start with these contemplations to help you turning faith. So all my masters, all my teachers, they are like such wonderful, amazing, brave warriors to fight with their defilements. They could go on the pilgrimage in the forest, in the mountains, starving themselves for days. They never felt discouraged. They would just stay in the forest. They could starve to death. They could fall off the mountains. They could get injured. They would continue to walk. Otherwise, you die in vain. These masters that went out on their pilgrimage to see other masters in order to understand and study more Dhamma, in order to train themselves to become strong. So you look at the biographies of all these masters, it's so impressive. So during the Buddha's time, there was one monk before the Buddha. So they went around to look for the Buddha when the Buddha would emerge, would ask for all the merchants who travel between cities. So when there is any major news, one day the merchant came and say the Buddha had emerged, Dhamma had emerged, and Sangha had emerged in this world. That king heard about that news and sent someone to tell the wife who still stay in the palace that he said he's not returning back to the palace today. He started the journey to see the Buddha. So the king had such a resolute mind to go seek the Buddha, and he met with the Buddha and he got enlightened in a short time. There's no free lunch. If you want to achieve something good, you have to suffer, you have to fight for it. Even just to make money, you still have to fight. If you want to transcend from this world, you have to fight. There's no room for the weak, for the discouraged ones. There's no easy way out of the sufferings. So you be resolute, be brave, be determined. So another thing to help you become this. So you have to hang out with the people who are strong, who have the resolutions. So the Buddha said, whoever are your friends who you surround yourself with, you become that kind of person. If you surround yourself with drinkers, gamblers, you become a drinker or a gambler. But if you hang out with the friends who are determined, who are resolute with their practice, so someone feel discouraged, another one would encourage the person to continue. So, and vice versa. So that you fight together. This is the true friends, the good friends. This is the friend in samsara to travel with you. I had my good friends like this. This friend of mine, who's also really good practitioner, who's really good together with me, but he didn't want to get ordained, but he didn't want to go further. So when we went to see the masters together, so when we practice together. So at night, when we were do the sitting meditation together, when I wanted to give up, he didn't want to give up. So we support each other, we lean on each other. So when someone gets a new perspective of Dhamma, get to see something more refined, we would share with each other. So having good friends for your practice would help you become
อันนี้ศรัทธา
stronger.
ก็ทำให้เรา
When someone has more confidence, more faith,
นี่ถ้าเรามีสิ่งเหล่านี้
will
ในใจ
bring
เรา
to
จะ
another
เข้มแข็งกล้า
person.
หาญ
When you have the resolution,
เกิดอะไรขึ้น
when
จะ
you
เดิ
have
น
the
ไปข้าง
courage,
ต่อสู้
whatever
ไม่ใช่คิด
happens
แต่จะหนี
in life, you will fight.
อย่างหลวงพ่อ
It's not
บอก
about
ให้เดินจงกรม
escaping.
3
So when I told you
หลัง
to do the walking meditation for 3
คนจำนวน
hours,
มากนะ
a lot
สู้
of people fight.
ต้องไปเดินจงกรมจ
They
ริ
would
ง
go and do it.
ๆ พอเดินได้ 3
When
ชั่ว
they
โมง
started to do it, once they
จิตใจ
can
มั
do
นขึ้น
3
แข็งแรง
hours,
มาก
and
มาย
the mind has
พอเดิน
transformed
อ
so
อกมา
much
เข้มแข็ง
because the mind was
บาง ค
brave,
นได้ยิน
was
ว่า ให้เดินจง
resolute.
กรม 3 ชั่วโมง
Some
แล้ว
people
จิต
would
ใจ
heard
ดู
3
ท้อแท้
hours, they feel so
พวกเรา
discouraged.
จะไปสู้กิเลสได้ไง
So how are you going to fight with your own
กิเลสมัน
defilements?
ครองหัวใจ
Defilements already had overtaken you.
คือความอ่อนแอท้อแท้
It's the weakness, it's the discouragement.
ส่วนคนที่เข้มแข็ง
So the brave
เดิ
ones
นทีแรกก็เดินได้
fight.
ครึ่
At
งชั่วโม
first,
ง
they might be able to do
เดิน
half
ไป
an
เรื่อย
hour. After a
ๆ
while,
เดินได้ชั่วโมง
they
ครึ่
can
ง 2
get
ชั่ว
to
โมง
an
3
hour,
ชั่วโม
2
ง
hours, 3 hours.
จริง ๆ แล้วครูบาอาจารย์รุ่นก่อนนะ เดิน
Actually,
กัน
in
เป็น
the
10 ชั่วโมงเลย
past,
นะ
all the masters in the past, they would walk for 10 hours, walking till dawn.
นี่ถ้าเรา
So if
มีใจเข้มแข็งนะ
you
ก็ต่อ
feel
สู้
strong and
แล้ว
fight
ก็ วิธีสู้จะ
and
ทำยัง
stick
ไง
to it, how do you
ขั้
do
นแรก
this?
ล้า
The
งส
first
มาธิ
step,
ให้ดี
the first step
ขั้น
is
ที่ 2
upholding your
พั
morality,
ฒ
the
นาจิตให้ดี
precepts. The
คือ
second
การฝึก
step
สมา
is
ธิ
to
สมาธิ
develop
คือการ
the mind, develop
ฝึกอบรม
samadhi.
จิตใจ
It's the training of the
ขั้น
mind.
ที่ 3 ก็คือ
And the
การ
third
พัฒนา
step
ปัญญา
is to develop your
การ
wisdom,
พัฒ
your
นา ส
insight.
มาธินะฝึกให้จิตใจ
Developing
เข้ม
the
แข็ง ให้จิตใจ มี
concentration
กำ
or
ลัง
samadhi
นะ
is
ให้
for
จิต
the
ใจ
mind to have the energy, the
สงบ
power to be
มี
calm,
กำลัง สดชื่น
sufficiently calm and
แล้วก็
energized,
พัฒนา
fresh,
สมาธิอีกระ
and
ดับหนึ่ง
develop it
พั
further.
ฒนาสมาธิ
After
ให้
the first
จิตตั้ง
stage,
มั่น
samadhi,
จิ
it's
ต
for
ตั้ง
the
มั่น
mind to
จะ
be
เป็นผู้รู้
stable.
ผู้ตื่น
So the
ผู้เบิก
mind
บาน
becomes an observer,
พอเรามีจิตตั้ง
luminous,
มั่น เราถึงจะเจริญปัญญาได้
vibrant. And the mind,
แล้วถ้าเราเจริญ
once
ปั
it's
ญญาได้เต็ม
stable,
ที่
then you
นะ
can
ก็
cultivate
จะเกิด
wisdom.
มรรคผล
When you can
เรา
fully
จะสามารถ
cultivate
นิพพาน
wisdom, you achieve the noble path
ให้
and
ยกตัวอย่าง
fruitions,
ที่
and
จะ
you
เห็นรู้สึก
eventually
นะ
reach nibbana.
จุด
So
หัว
in
แร
this
ก ก่อน
process,
ที่เราจะ
the
พัฒนา
initial
ศีล
stage,
สมาธิ
in
ปัญ
order
ญา
to
ให้สมบูร
develop
ณ์ได้ เราต้อง
the
พัฒนาสติ
morality,
ถ้า
the
ไม่มีสติ
mindfulness, and the
ไม่มี
wisdom,
ศีล
you
ไม่มี
first
สมา
need
ธิ
the
ไม่มีปัญญา ที่แท้
mindfulness.
จริง
Without
มี
mindfulness,
ศี
you
ล
will
มี
never
ศีล
have
แบ
the
บที่เรา
true
ทำกัน
morality,
ไม่
samadhi,
ธร
and
รมดา
wisdom.
แต่
So
ถ้าเรา
the
มีสติ
precepts
ไม่ได้เจ
will
ตนา
actually
รักษา
be
ศีล
easily tainted, but
จิ
when
ต
you
มันก็
have
รัก
the
ษาศีล เอ
mindfulness,
ง
even though without the
ไม่
intention,
การพัฒ
the
นา
mind
เค
would
รื่องมือตัว
observe
แรกเลย
the
นะ ที่เราจะ
morality
พัฒ
on
นา
its
เครื่อ
own.
งตัวแรกเลย
So the first
คือส
stage
ติ
is the
การจะพัฒ
mindfulness
นา
that
ส
needs
ติ
to
ก็
be
คือการทำ
developed.
สติปัฏฐา
How
น
do you do
ถ้า
it?
ถ้า
You
ทำส
need
ติ
the
ปัฏฐานได้
foundations of
ก็จะได้
mindfulness.
สติ
So once you do
ขั้น
this,
ที่
you
2
get the mindfulness. And then the
เมื่อเรา
second
มีส
step,
ติ แล้ว
once you
ส
have the
มาธิ
mindfulness,
ที่ถูกต้องจะ
the
เกิดเอง
correct kind of samadhi will
เมื่อเรา
arise
มี
on
ส
its
ติ มี
own.
สมาธิ
When
แล้
you
ว
have
การ
the
เจริญปัญ
mindfulness
ญา
and
ก็
samadhi,
จะเกิดขึ้
then
น
the
ได้เอง
wisdom would
ถ้า
occur
เรา มีปัญญา
automatically,
แล้ว เนี่ย
will
มัชฌิ
arise
มา อริย
automatically.
ผล ก็จะ
Once
เกิ
you
ด
have
ขึ้
the
น
wisdom, the
เนี่ย มันเหมือน
noble
ขั้นบันได
path and
ไต่ขึ้น
fruitions
ไป
will,
ทีละ
will
ขั้น ทีละ
arise.
ขั้น
So this is like steps
การจะ
of
ฝึก
the
ตัวเอง
progress
ให้มี
in order to train
สติ
yourself.
นะ
In
เรา
order
ต้อ
to
ง
have
ตั้ง
the
เป้า
mindfulness
ตั้ง
initially,
ใจ รักษา
you
ศีล
have
5 ไว้ก่อน
to have the determination
นะ เพ
to
ราะว่าเราจะงง
observe the
บาง
five
ทีบอกว่ามี ส
precepts.
ติ แล้วจะมีศีล
So I
แต่
told
ถ้ามี
you,
ศีลอัตโน
maybe
มั
you
ติ เป็น
confused
ศีลที่
that
ดี
if you have
แต่ขั้นต้น
mindfulness, you have
กิ
the
เลสยังรุนแรง
precepts.
อยู่
What
เนี่ย
does it mean?
เรา
So
ไม่มี ส
initially,
ติ
when the defilements are
แล้ว
still
เราก็
very
เลือกที่
strong,
ชั่ว
so you
ทำ
don't
ร้าย
have
ทำ
the
อ
strong
นาจาร
mindfulness, you
เนี่ย
may
ด่า
do
เขา ตีเขา อะไรอย่างเงี้ย
bad deeds
เรา
through
จะทำชั่ว
speech or
ไม่
actions.
ได้
You
ตั้งใจ
can
ไว้ ก่อน
scold
ว่า
others
จะ
or
มา
hit
ทำส
others.
มาทานศีล
So then you
ตั้งใจ
have
ว่า
to
วันนี้
promise to
คืนนี้
yourself that
เรา
you're
จะ
gonna
ไม่ให้
observe the
ศีล 5
precepts
ของเราเสีย
with a
หาย ข้อ 5
determination
ก็
not to
ไม่ต้อง
taint the 5 precepts.
ทำ
You
มาก
only need 5
ทำมาก
precepts.
เดี๋ยวก็
Don't
ทำไม่ได้จริ
look
ง
for more. Don't
5
try
ข้อ
to
พอที่จะบรรลุ
decide to
ความ
do
สำเร็จ
more. 5 is
หรือระ
enough
ดับ
for
ที่
you
2
to
คือวิ
start
ช
to
ฌาน 5
achieve
นี่
the first and the
ถ้าอยาก
second
สูงกว่านั้นก็
level
ถือศีล
of a noble person, the stream enterer, and once returner. The 8 precepts are good for the third stage for the non-returner, for the level of the noble person. So once you reach the non-returner level, the more you practice, you eventually achieve Nibbana, Arahant. So first, start to have the intention to observe the precepts. If you violated any of the precepts, it's okay. Don't cry. Just come back and said you try to observe the 5 precepts again, not to be making the same mistakes again. And then the next step, start to do the cultivation of mindfulness. The foundations of mindfulness is to be aware of your body and mind, becoming aware of your body, and then started to see the feelings, happy, unhappy. And then the third stage is the formations, good or bad, wholesome, unwholesome. And the fourth level is to be mindful of the mind itself. And then the fourth level is to see Dharma, to see the truth. So these are the stages of the developments. So those who are already very strong in their faculties, you don't need to start with the 4 steps. You can just go straight to the fourth stage, but it's really hard. So it's a mindfulness of Dhamma. So Lord Buddha would start to see, observe, to see what exists, the sufferings will arise. So the birth, what is birth? It's because the mind started to grasp the mind or the sense doors, like the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body. It's not about thinking, you have to see it. A lot of times, people who who study a lot of text, they would just try to understand Paticca Samuppabbad. It's actually not about thinking, but the foundations of mindfulness is actually the main road, the only road. It's not thinking. In order for you to see the states, to see the phenomena, see the mind, grasping the sense doors, the moment the mind starts to grasp these sense doors, because the mind still has the mental formations, the good mental formations, the bad mental formations, it becomes us, the self arises. This moment that arises, the moment that you grasp the mind, that's when self arises. That's what say the minds start to hold on to the mind. This is the level of the Buddha. It's really hard. You can study later. Study yourself, doing the foundations of mindfulness. Be aware of your body. And then over time, you will be seeing all these, the Four Noble Truth clearly. So just like when I study, Luangpu Dun taught me to start at the 3rd level, to observe the mind, to be mindfulness of the mind. So I was becoming aware of the body. The mind becomes angry, I was aware. The mind was greedy, I became aware. When this anger or the greed disappear, I become aware. When the mind is deluded, the mind is lost, the mind become aware. The mind is aware. I knew it, and then it disappeared. Everything disappeared. I started with the mind. So as you kept observing, all the minds arises and they will ceases. The greedy mind arises, it ceases. The angry mind arises and it ceases. So the mind that is deluded arises and becomes aware. Even the aware mind, it arises and it falls away. The scattered mind arises and falls away. The sorry, sad mind arises and falls away until one day it becomes clear that it's subject to the 3 marks. It's impermanent, it's suffering, and it's non-self. It's not thinking, you have to see. So some people said observing the mind is too refined, it's too subtle. So you can observe something that is more obvious, more coarse. So during the day, you feel happy, unhappy all day. If you could see, observe this. If you could see the mind feeling happy and unhappy all day, at this moment, can you feel that your mind is happy, unhappy, or indifferent. And then over time, the wisdom will arise. Happiness or unhappiness, they're all temporary. Even the equanimity, the indifference are also temporary. Happiness are temporary. Sufferings are temporary. It comes and goes. The delusion, the scattered mind, or the equanimity arises, and then you equanimous for temporarily, and then another moment it becomes happy and unhappy again on its own. So when I did this, I combined these feelings together with the mental mind, mindfulness. So I read my mind. Eventually, I would see the happy unhappiness arises. One moment good, one moment bad, sufferings and happy. Sometimes I try to be mindful of the feelings. Sometimes you see that it's good, sometimes it's bad. I see both the feelings and the mind itself. I would see the two things together. Happy, unhappy, one thing. You see wholesome, unwholesome, and non-wholesomeness and non-unwholesomeness. After a while, you see everything arises and falls away. It's not under control. It's non-self. Everything arises because of its conditions. It has its own cause and repercussion, and the wisdom would grow over time until you truly understand the nature, the truth, Dhamma, that actually become aware. If you study the mind, you start to understand the body too. The mind is the master, is the principal, and commands the body to do this and that. So once, if you cannot see this, don't be scared. Observe the body. Observe the body. The body is easily observed. The mind is so hard to observe. So what Luangpu taught me to observe the mind, it's really, really hard. It's not the true mind. You just see that the happy, unhappy mind arises and falls away. So wholesome, unwholesomeness arises and falls away. So when the mind has more power, more energy, you see that this happiness and the mind, the wholesomeness and the mind are separate things. You could see that the aggregate separate, and then you start to see the mind that is not tainted by any formations, by any fabrications. You see the mind itself arises and falls away. It one moment the mind is aware and stable, another moment the mind moves to the eyes to see the image, moves to the ears, to the nose, to the tongue, to the body, to the mind. You start to see the mind deeply through the sense doors. You start to see the mind arises at one door and falls away at that point. At first, I start to see the mind is moving, and then I hear something. There's something inside my chest moving, observing after a while. So I asked Luangpu Dun, what is it that is? The mind is staying there, but I didn't dare to say that the mind is staying inside my chest. The mind is situated there. The mind is located there. So I asked Luangpu, where is the mind located? Inside my mind. The mind felt that it's inside the chest because I felt the vibrations inside the chest. Luangpu told me there is no locations of the mind. So I was confused. There's no location of the mind. So how do we observe it? So after a while, I gradually understood that there is no permanent location of the mind. If the mind arises at the eyes, it ceases at the eyes. If the mind arises at the nose, it ceases at the nose. If the mind arises at the tongue or the body, it ceases at that location. The mind arises at wherever it is, ceases at that location. So initially, I couldn't see it because the mindfulness and samadhi were still insufficient. So I couldn't see it. Could see that the mind moves here and there to the doors of the sensual contacts. So there's just only one mind moves here and there. And then over time, after my practice, and then the mind as an observer would see, become the observing mind, the observer mind arises and falls away. If it arises at the eyes, it falls away, it's there, it ceases there. And then the mind becomes aware. At the mind, it becomes aware and it arises and falls away. The mind that listens, it arises and ceases. These are different minds. That just the moment the mind becomes aware, that's one mind. Another moment the mind listens, it's a different mind. That's different mind. These two things are not the same thing. It's not one mind that runs all over the places. There is this one stable observer, and there's something arises over there, and another observing mind arises, and then there is no location permanent for a mind. Everything is temporary. So at the temple, there is one monk can start to see that the mind, it just keep flickering. It's countless number of minds. Each mind that arises, and there's just one space in between these moments are separated out. If you could start to see this, you will see these refined moments that arise. So the easiest part for you to do it, to be aware of your body. The mind is so good at wandering off, but the body never wanders anywhere. So it's the mind that is gone somewhere else and not becoming aware of the body. So don't try to fabricate your mind. Can you feel that the body is sitting? Is it hard to see the body sitting? It's not that hard, right? Can you see that the body breathing out, the body breathing in? If you become aware, it's not hard. But you actually not trying to observe. You try to observe something else. You're trying to hear some other people. You want to smell this or that. You want to taste this or that. It's because you actually neglecting the body. You forget about the body all the time. So you're listening to me. So once you understand, you're nodding. Are you aware that you're nodding? Can you feel that your body is moving because your mind is lost? You're thinking because, that's Luangpo saying something I understood. Your body is moving, you're not even aware. So, in order to practice the foundations of mindfulness, become aware of your body. That's the easiest part. Just keep breathing. Do observing it. The body is moving, become aware. The body is sitting, become aware. When you do the walking meditation for 3 hours, it's not for you to just keep walking with the stressed or wandering mind. See the body walking, observing it. Don't control. Don't over focus on the body until the body or the mind gets so stressed. Just feel it. Feel it. Don't over focus. Don't fixate on something. That don't be so serious, otherwise you feel too stressed. So at this moment, can you feel the body sitting? Just feel the body sitting. You don't have to prepare and adjust your posture. No, don't be crazy like that. It's a waste. You see the guy in the green mask, you're nodding, but you forget the body nodding when the body is moving. So practice as the body moves, become aware. And then after a while, the mindfulness will arise automatically. When the mind is lost and you turn, the mindfulness will arise. Oh, then you realize that you forgot about the body the moment ago. It's not about forbidding you to forget the body, but don't forget it for too long. So when you practice movements of the body, so become aware. So when you become aware of the body often, the moment you start to move the body, you get the mindfulness. So when you have the mindfulness, as you follow this track, once you get the mindfulness arises from observing the body, continue the observation, feel the body, and then you see something that is inside the body, is the feelings, happy and happiness inside the body, hiding in the body, and you feel the itch, you feel the body's sufferings, unhappy. So For non-practitioner, when they feel the itch, they just scratch. But if you're a practitioner, you see the itch arising in your body. You feel like, can you scratch? Yes, of course. There's no need for you to tolerate without scratching. So then you become aware. In the next step, you start to observe the feelings. That's the second step of foundations of mindfulness. If you sit for a long time, your body is aching, your back is aching. You might feel numb in your legs. If you're sitting meditate for a long time, you feel the numb in your legs. You see the body, the legs, and the numbness are separate things. The body is sitting there, is walking. This aches, this numbness, this itch arises after these two feelings and the body are separate things. You start to see the sensations, the feelings in the body. And then you see that the feelings in the body is something else, it's not us. It's something else that is not us. It's something being observed. Keep observing like this. And then you start to feel the ache in the body, and then your mind started to suffer. So you start to move from the feelings in your body to the feelings inside your mind. So that's the third step. That's the next step. You start to see the feelings in the mind. The mind start to feel unhappy too. When the body is not well, the body is not happy. You see the changes in the mind. Initially, the mind is indifferent, and then this moment, the mind feels unhappy. And now the mind feels happy at this moment. The mind feels unhappy at another moment. You start to see the feelings in the mind. So start observe the body. The next you see the feelings inside the body, and then you start to see the feelings in the mind. And then the body is happy, the mind is happy. When the body is unhappy, the mind is unhappy. When the eyes come to contact with a beautiful flower, with a beautiful ocean, the mind is happy. The mind, you become aware that the mind is happy. Now you start to see the feelings of the mind. So when you come to contact with something that you like, you feel happy in the mind. So when you come to contact with something that is just meaningless, you feel indifferent. So when something comes to, you can have happy, unhappy, and indifference or equanimous mind. So in the third stage, it's about mindfulness of the mind. So the mindfulness of the mind, the contemplation of the mind. So when you have greedy, you will see that you have greed, and you see something in there that you dislike it. This dislike is actually a kind of aversion. You come to contact with something that these contact is something that you like. You have the like and the dislike and the indifference. This is the mental fabrication. You see the mental formations. So once you start to see the mental formations, which is inside the mind, it's not only like, dislike, and indifference. There are many other things. There are so many states. You may feel the envy. When someone practices better than you, you feel envious. This is not the body. This is not happy or unhappiness. But this is the mental formation. You feel the envy. You feel envious. You feel loving towards someone. You feel hateful towards someone. These feelings just keep rotating inside your mind. One moment it's good, another moment it's bad. So when you listen to Dhamma and you feel good, this is a wholesome mind. And if I don't stop and you needed to go to the restroom, you feel angry. So initially, it's just like this. This is the initial stage of my practice. I observe the mind, see the anger, the greedy, and then you see the mind, whether liking or disliking or indifferent. So at this stage, so Once you move
เรา
to
ก็
the
เห็น
next
เลย
level,
ความสุขความทุกข์กุศลอ
you
กุศ
see
ล
that
ไม่ใช่จิตหรอก
these
เป็นสิ่งที่เกิด
mind
ดับไป
objects,
มา
the
แล้วก็ผ่าน
mental
มาแล้วก็
factors
ผ่าน
that
ไป
arises,
ไม่
is
ได้
not
อ
the
ยู่
mind
กับเนื้อ
itself.
กับตา
They are all
จิตมันสา
temporarily.
มารถแยก
They
แย
are
ก
also subject to the three
ออก
marks
จาก
of
ความรู้สึก
existence.
สุขทุกข์
The
ดีชั่ว
mind
ได้
can separate out
เข้า
from
มา
the
รู้ตัวเองได้
feelings, happy,
ถ้าเรา
unhappy,
อัน
come
นี้
back
ตัว
to
จริ
the
ง แล้ว
mind.
เราแยก
Coming
ได้
back to the
จิ
mind,
ตเองก็
you
ไม่
see
เที่ยง
that the mind
มัน
itself
เกิดดับ
are
ตา
temporarily,
หู
are
จมูก ลิ้น
impermanent.
กาย ใจ
It arises
เห็น
at
ก
the
ฎ
six
กติกา
sense
การทำ
doors,
งาน
and you see the
พอ
function,
มี
the
สิ่งกระตุ้น
process of
ทาง
the
ตา
function
มี
of
ก
the
ระตุ้น
mind.
ที่ตา มี
When
สิ่ง
there's
กระตุ้
some
น ทาง หู
stimulus
เกิ
at
ด
the
ที่ หู
eyes, it arises at the
จาก
eyes,
นั้น
stimulus
จะเห็น
at
ปุ๊
the
บ
ear,
จะ
it
เกิด
goes
อ
to
รู
the
ปธรรม
ears. You
อา
see
ย
that
ตนะ ทั้ง 6 คือ
these
ตา หู จมูก
the
ลิ้น
mind
กาย
would
ใจ
arises and falls at the six sense
เนี่ย มัน
doors.
เห็นไปเรื่อย ๆ นะ เราก็จะ
So as you see all
มัน บัง
these,
คับ ไม่ได้
you see
ไม่
that
ใช่
the
ตัวเรา
mind
จิต
cannot
เป็น
be
คนท
controlled. It's not
ำ หรือ
us.
เราเฝ้า
You
รู้
started
ทัน
to
จิต
see,
บ่อย ๆ ทำ
become
ให้เราเห็น
aware of the
ดี
mind.
ขึ้
You
น ดี
see
ขึ้น
as it more and
พ
more
อเรามีกิเล
subtle,
สลึก
more
ๆ เข้าไป
refined.
มันมีกิเลส
Before
ชั่
the
ว
defilements
กิเลส
arises,
มี
you
ห
have
ลา
to
ย ๆ ระดับ
see
นะ
there are
เปรีย
levels
บ
of
ที่เราเห็
defilements.
น เนี่ย เหมือน
What you see
น้ำแข็ง
actually it's just like the
ที่
tip
ลอยอยู่ใน
of
ทะ
the
เล นะ
iceberg
เรา
above
มั
the
นลอย
ocean.
เรา
You
เลยมอง
only
ไม่
see
เห็
a
น
little bit.
ข้างล่า
You
ง
thought
มี
you
เย
see
อะ
a
เลย
little
ข้าง
bit.
ใต้น้ำ อะ
Underneath
ไอ้
the
กิเลส
surface
ตัณ
of
หา
the
ราคะ
water,
โท
there's
ษ
like
โม
a
หะ
huge
เรา
amount.
นะ
When you see the
กิเล
greed,
ส
the
ทั้ง 5
anger,
กิเล
the
ส ใต้
delusion,
น้ำ
it's
ลึก
actually
ๆ
the
นะ ที่
tip
เรา
of
พู
the
ดถึง
iceberg. But underneath
อนุ
the
สัย
water,
พวกนิว
there
รณ์
is
พวกอนุ
this
สัย อนุสั
just
ย
a
เนี่ย
lot of
เป็นกิเลสที่
hindrances,
ละเอียดที่สุดเล
a
ย นะ
lot of
นะ แล้วสังโยชน์เลยนะ กิ
natural
เลสมีเยอะแยะ
temperaments
แต่
that
เรา
you
ไม่ต้องต
are.
กใจ
Don't be
มีตั
scared
วไหน
of
โผล่มา
these.
ให้เห็น
Whatever
ก็
arises that
ไม่
you
ต้
can
องไป
observe,
ขุด
just
ใต้ทะเล
observe that.
นะ
There's
เรา
no
ก็เอา
need
ล
to
งไปดู
dig underneath the water to
รู้ไป
see
เรื่
any
อย
of these.
ๆ ความ
Just
รู้สึก
become
รู้ไป
aware
เรื่อย
whatever you
ๆ เดี๋ย
could
ววันหนึ่ง
see.
มันก็เข้าใจ
And one day you will
ตรงที่เรา
understand.
เห็น
When you
นิวรณ์
understand,
มันเป็นกิเลส
when then you see
ขวาง
these
กั้น
hindrances,
การ
these
ทำ
are
ควา
the
มดีทั้งหลา
blocking
ย
from
ใจ
all the
เรา
wholesome
อย่างใจเรามีนิวรณ์นะ
things
มี
to arise.
ค
When
วา
you
ม
have the
ติดในความ
hindrances,
สุขอะ มีกามฉั
when
นทะ
you actually like
นึ
the
กแต่อยาก
sensual
เข้าหา
pleasures,
มัน
would
คิด
you
ถึงแต่ที่นอ
be
น
diligent
นะ เนี่ย ตัว
at
นี้
your
มันขวาง
practice?
อัน
No,
นี้
you
เป็
just
น
keep
กิเลสที่
thinking
ลึก
about
เลย
your
นะ
bed.
ไม่ใช่โล
This
ภ
is
โกร
a
ธ หลง
more
มั
subtle
นเป็นแค่ตัวนิว
defilements.
รณ์ เป็น
It's
ตัว
the
ที่ขวางกั้นคุณ
hindrances.
งามความดี
It's
นะ
blocking all
แล้ว
the
ถ้าเราเห็นกิ
wholesome
เลส
deeds to
สังโย
arise.
ชน์เนี่ย มันเป็นเครื่อง
So,
ผูกใจเรา
so
ให้ติดอยู่กับความปรุงแต่
there
ง
are some
ให้ติดอยู่
defilements
กับ
is something that
และ
attach,
กิเล
that
สมีหลาย
hold
อย่า
your
งนะ
minds to
มี
it.
เยอะ
There
แยะ
are so many kinds of defilements.
นี่เราดูตัวไหนโผล่
So
ขึ้นมาให้เห็น
observe
เราก็
whatever that arises for you to
รู้สึ
observe.
กไป
Just
เรื่อย
observe it.
ๆ แล้ว
Be
เห็น
mindful of
กา
it.
รทำงานของ
And
มัน
then you
ว่า
see
มัน
the
ก็คือ
workings of the mind.
มันในธรรมานุปัสสนาเนี่ย ส่วนใหญ่มันจะ
So
เป็นเรื่องเห็นก
when
ระ
you
บวนการ
understand, when you
กระบวนการ
try
ทำงาน
to do the contemplation of the mind objects, it's
กาม
about
ฉันทะ นิ
understanding
วร
about
ณ์
the process
เกิ
of
ด
the
ขึ้น
work.
ได้ยังไง
When you see
จะเห็นอย่างนี้ ไม่ใช่เห็นแค่ตัว
the
มัน โทสะเนี่ย
contemplation
นะ เรา
of
เห็
the
น
hindrances.
ถ้าตื้น ๆ เราก็
So
เห็น
when
แค่
you
ไฟ
see the
ร้อน
anger,
โกร
you
ธ
see for the
แต่
simple
เห็น
one,
ระดับ
you see this
เข้า
moment,
ใจ
you're
สภาวะ
angry.
ธรรมนะ
So
มันจะ
the
เห็นว่า
next level, when you
อะไร
fully
ต่าง ๆ มัน
understand
เกิ
it,
ด
you see what
เนี่ย
causes
เรา
this
ไม่ช
anger.
อบ
It
แล้วใจ
comes to
เราก็
contact with something you
ความคุ้น
dislike,
เคย
and
ที่
your
โมโห
mind is used to
มันก็เลย
getting
เกิดความโม
angry,
โห ความโกร
and
ธ
you
ขึ้น
get
มา
the
เรา
anger
จะ
that
เห็นเรื่อย ๆ
arises.
แล้วธรรมา
You
นุปัส
start
ส
to
นาเขาบอก
see
ว่ายาก
these
แล้วธรรมานุปัสสนา
refined, subtle things. So the contemplation of the mind
เราเห็นทุก
objects
นิวรณ์กิเล
is
สนิ
the
วรณ์
fourth
ที่
level
ข
of
วางกั้นคุณงาม
mindfulness
ความดี
practice. It's so hard.
กิเลส
It's
มี
about
สั
seeing
ม
the
มาอาชี
hindrances
ก็
that
มี
blocking
คือโพชฌงค์ 7
for
โพ
the
ชฌงค์ 7 เป็นองค์ธรรม
good things to
นำไป
arise.
สู่การ
So
ตรัส
there
รู้
is also the
แต่
enlightenment
แล้วจะมี
factors. This
พั
is
ฒ
the
นา
factors
จิต
on the
เป็
good
นรูป
side
ธร
for
รม
the
เข้า
mind
สู่
to
ญาณ
develop for
ในที่
liberations.
สุดของธรรมานุ
So
ปัสส
the
นา
most
คือการ
subtle
เห็น
refined things
อริย
for the
สัจ
contemplation
เห็
of
นอริ
the
ยสัจ
mind
เห็นปฏิจ
object,
จสมุ
it's
ป
about about seeing the Four Noble Truths. You
ขันธ์ห้า
see
คือทุกข์
the sufferings. You see that the five
ค
aggregates
วามอ
are
ยาก
the
คือตัว
sufferings.
สมุทัย
The
คือเหตุแห่งความ
desire
ทุกข์
is the cause of
นิโรธคือ
sufferings.
นิพพานคือสภาวะ
And
ที่สิ้น
then the
ทุกข์
cessation of
มรรคก็
sufferings
คือวิธีปฏิ
is
บัติ
the end
เพื่อ
of
เข้าถึง
sufferings.
ความสิ้นทุกข์
And
นะ
the
รู้อริยสัจ
noble path is the
ต
path
รงนี้
to
ยาก
end
นะ
the
เอา
sufferings.
ไว้
This
ได้
is so
เข้า
hard.
มาเรียนต่อ
Once you achieve the non-returner
ถ้า
level, you can come back
ยั
to
งไม่ได้
study.
เรียนไม่
You
เข้าใจ
haven't achieved that
ไม่มีแสง
stage.
สว่างไม่
You
ไม่
cannot
ไม่ได้
understand
ท่องตำราได้ แต่
these
ไม่เห็นสภาวะ
Patijasmupabat. You
ละ
can
กิเลสไม่ได้
remember the text,
เนี่ยพระพุทธ
but
เจ้า
you will
ท่าน
not
ส
have
อ
the
นทั่ว
wisdom
ถึง
to
พระอริยสัจ
eradicate
เลย
the
มีป
defilements.
ฏิจจสมุปบาท
So
ด้วย
these
พวกเราบารมีไม่ขนาดนั้นนะ
studies
เอาแค่ว่า
of
ร่างกาย
this
เกิดจาก
conditional
กุศลก็พอ
arising
แล้ว
is really hard and at very sophisticated level. So just mindful of the body and mind as you become better at this, you make progress. Is it too hard? So as you develop continuously, you see the truth that this body and mind does not belong to you. This is the initial stage of wisdom, that you see the body and mind is not us. There is not us. Is the first wisdom that you achieve at the stream entry level. So you see, even though it's not us, but it doesn't mean you stop clinging to it. It's almost like you rent a house. You know it's not your house, but you have decorated it, and you ask yourself to move away from it because the owner wants it back. You're going to have to fight. The mind and the body are the same, even though you see it's not us, but you still clinging to it. Clinging even though you know it doesn't belong to you. But the moment that you know it's not us, it's that wisdom that you achieve at the stream entry level. So keep practicing your foundations of mindfulness. On some day when the mind is powerful, you can see the mind itself. When the mind doesn't have enough energy, you cannot observe the mind. Just observe the body. See the body moving. But if you cannot, just go back to samatha practice. Just keep breathing, reciting Buddha, staying with one object continuously. The mind will become calm and start to get energized. And then you could come back to wisdom cultivation. So the more you practice, you start to see the truth that is more subtle, more refined. So once you achieve the stream entry level, you see the body and mind is not us, and you become aware of the body. After some time, you see that the body is the sufferings. A lay person would see that the body is sometimes happy, unhappy. Even a stream enterer would see that at some moment the mind's happy, some moment the mind's unhappy. The once returner sees still the same thing, happy and unhappy moments in the body, until one day the mind has sufficient energy. You start to see that the body is the suffering. Most of the people who could not achieve at this level will feel that the body is either happy or unhappy. And then at that stage, you see that the body is full of sufferings. It's either a little sufferings or a lot of sufferings. And the mind would just no longer cling to the body. There will be no cravings to make the body permanent, to make body good. There's no clinging to the body. At that stage, the mind is free from clinging to the body. So there's no clinging to all the sensual contacts, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. So that's the wisdom at the level of non-returner level. So first, the lay person, the stream entry, once returner, they are different from the non-returner level. There's no attachment to the sensual pleasures. There's no jumping, clinging to something that comes to contact to the sense doors. Our mind, the lay people's mind, is like a dog. When you see a piece of bone, you jump at it, you go fetch it. When you are a non-returner, you can see a naked lady in front of you, the mind would not move towards that lady. This happiness that arises inside the non-returner, it's at the level of Brahma realm. So as the non-returner lets go of the body, the mind who comes back to the mind itself, would study its own mind, would not give up. So when they become aware, it will come to study the mind continuously. See one moment, good, bad, and see the three marks of the existence all the time. And then the mind to start to understand that the mind itself is the sufferings. It's a little bit of sufferings or a lot of suffering. It's the same concept that you understand the body. It's a little sufferings or a lot of sufferings. At the final stage, you see that the mind itself is the suffering, is The most difficult one is the hardest one to observe. Even the happy mind is the suffering. It's so refined, it's so subtle. Once at that moment you fully understand, the mind will no longer cling to the mind itself. That's the final wisdom stage of an arahant. Don't imagine an arahant. It's like not some image of someone who's dressed in something strange who could fly. That's just a trick. That's just a trick for someone to imagine this. For someone who's just still not so wise to understand this. There's no arahant. There's no non-returner who could come and rescue you. You can only train yourself to become a monk yourself. So then your mind becomes sangha yourself. That's when you achieve arahant. Your mind will become one as the same mind as the Buddha. Someone used to see a master, Kunme Chandi. She was the sister of Luangpu Mahabuddha. Okay, I think it's beyond your comprehension. So let's come back to this. So first, in conclusion, observe the morality, the precepts, and then practice your mindfulness. If you can observe the body, observe the body. If you're good at observing the feelings, or if you could observe the mind, or if you could see the mind arising and ceases at all the sense doors, and one day eventually you start to understand that there's no self. Eventually, you fully understand whatever that exists are all sufferings. When you truly see all the sufferings, the mind will let go. The mind will stop clinging. There will be no burden of the mind. The mind will become empty. It's not the emptiness or the void that you can imagine. You just think about nothingness. But when the mind is empty, it's the existence. There is nothing there. When you achieve at that stage, when the mind is at that stage, when I look at you guys, do you exist? But it's all emptiness. But the emptiness that arises from your thought or from samadhi, it's just the opposite of busyness. It's different kind. The language can say the same words, it's the same emptiness, but the actually state of the mind are completely different. So continue to practice. One day, your mind and Buddha's mind will be one. The mind is Buddha. It's the same one thing. So Kunme Chandi initially, can you see that the mind and the Buddha are the same? That masters told Kunme Chandi that Dhamma and Buddha and our mind, Dhamma and the mind are one thing. So that monk, that master had so much respect for the Buddha, he would just only observe Dhamma and the mind are the same thing. So Kunme Chandi said, it's also the same thing with Buddha as well. So that master came back to the temple and started to observe what is Buddha. Buddha is not the body of the Buddha. The body of the Buddha is not the same, is the same thing as our body. It aging and it died. What is the true Buddha? It's the virtues that makes him Buddha. In these virtues, Lord Buddha had so much compassion, has infinite compassion. So he observed himself. He didn't have the same kind of infinite compassion. He saw the Buddha that he could enlighten on his own, and this master could see that there's no way that he could got enlightened on his own. And then he thought about the Buddha again. So the Buddha had the purity of the mind. And then he observed himself that he could observe the purity. So there is one thing that's equivalent that can be compared with the Buddha is the purities. However, the level of wisdom and compassion are not the same, not at the same level as the Buddha, but the purities of the mind are at the same level. So this is such a strange thing. I guess I am just telling you these anecdotes for you to not get sleepy after breakfast. Any questions? Anything that you have in mind? Just know that you are curious. You have questions, don't ask. If you study Dhamma by asking questions, it won't help. So in the past, when I was teaching, I started teaching since the BE 2527, 1990, 41 years ago. Some students would understand. A lot of you guys would understand from memory, would memorize that Dhamma is like this or that, but don't understand to the mind. It only goes to the brain, to the memory. So recently, I told everyone to just go do the walking meditation. So it's about the practice with the right principles. For when you walk with mindfulness, you do sitting meditation with mindfulness. So this is mindfulness simply means don't be absent from the meditation object, are not controlling the object. So if you see the body walking, you see the body walking and the mind is observing it. But if the mind has moved to think about something else, the mind forgets the body, become aware of it, become aware that the mind is not with the body. The mind will come back to the body on its own. If you try to feel the body, walking or sitting, the mind will feel tight or congested. The moment you feel that, you're doing it with a greed. You just have to understand when the mind is escaping and you pull it back, you feel the tightness, the congestion. In that moment, when you do this, be mindful of it. What does it mean? The moment you practice, try to feel the existence of the body, of the mind. Just keep feeling it. If the mind has moved to something else, to think about something else, and then forget about the body and the mind, if you become mindful of it, become aware of it often, the moment you lost, you become aware on your own. So then that's automatic mindfulness. Keep doing this. And then another mistake that you do is just to overfocus. It's the opposite of the mind that is lost. The mind is lost, is moved somewhere else. But overfocusing is just to overfocusing on the meditation object. For example, observing the body breathing, you're overfixating at the breath. When you're walking, you focusing, overfocusing on the body, and it gets tight, it feels congested. So the middle path means don't be lost and don't try to control it. Be mindful of the body and the mind as they truly are. And then you start to see. And then you see that the body and the mind are all subject to the three marks of existence. And you understand more and more that it's not us. It cannot be controlled as you start to practice. Furthermore, you see that the body and mind are themselves the sufferings. And that's when you see the noble truth, the Four Noble Truths. If you see the body and the mind, that they are the sufferings, that you start to understand the Noble Truth. So all these five aggregates, the body and the mind, to say it in a obvious way, all the rupa and nama, everything are sufferings. So as you become fully aware and clear that the body and mind are always sufferings, that's when you understand sufferings. The moment you understand sufferings, the cause of sufferings will be extinguished automatically, will cease automatically. There's no need to get rid of the sufferings. Once you understand, for example, you understand that the body is the sufferings. When you understand that, you will not hold on to the body. The desire to be free from sufferings in the body is impossible. And once you understand the truth, you will no longer hold on to the body. If you understand that the mind itself is sufferings, there's no need for the mind to be happy to stop being unhappy. There's no attachment, no clinging to the body or to the mind. And then Nibbana will arise in front of you. So if you want to achieve Nibbana, you have to do it until there's no longer cravings. When the Nibbana is complete, it's right in front of you. Everything are the same, are equal. It's the emptiness. There's nothingness there. What you achieve, and in happiness that cannot be compared. All the happiness in the worldly sense. I had my money, I had a house, I had a wife, I had happiness. In the worldly sense, I understood the worldly happiness. But after practice, you see the higher level of happiness. Practice. Observe the 5 precepts and be mindful. Observe the body and mind, and your mind will develop. That's it for today. It's 10:30. It took me a long time to finish teaching in time. Wish you all happiness. Be diligent with your practice, and you will be able to experience the true happiness. The worldly happiness is temporary. The happiness that arises from Dhamma is the true happiness. It's calm, cool, nothing can be compared to.